wrong.
We call this December 4th, 2024 council meeting to order. We're going to start off first. We have a public hearing on CU 4-24, a conditional use application for a change in use from a hardware store to a karate studio. That's at 4270 Old William Penn Highway, tax parcel 49-15-10-0-004. It's mixed use zoning. 5270 Old William Penn Highway, if I didn't say that correct.
Sure. Yeah, so let's see if my mic is working here. I apologize. I don't hear myself overhead, but we have the applicant here. This is a conditional use application. It's a change in use, so it does require a public hearing. This item went before the Planning Commission. At the last meeting, the Planning Commission did recommend sending it over to council with only one additional item, and that would be a waiver to the landscaping requirements. The applicant can probably speak to that a little bit, but planning did recommend a waiver to the side yard landscaping based on the layout of the property. There's really nowhere for them to be able to put in side yard landscaping. But we can bring the applicant forward and they can explain to you what the proposal, what the change of use is. It is listed as a change into a karate studio. There will also be a partial use as a chiropractor's office. Between those two uses, it does trigger the conditional use process. So we can have the applicant come forward and give you a rundown of their request.
Great, thank you, Mike. If you could just state your name for the record.
I'm James Fox,
Your address, please.
4113 Castellana Court.
No.
Yeah, so the reason why the request for the landscaping is we have streams on the sides of the property, and the asphalt kind of goes through the streams. But we're still going to landscape the front and the side area. There'll be a little courtyard behind where the one building was.
And just for purposes of the public hearing, I don't know if council has any questions of the applicant. Again, this all went through planning. The briefing is in the meeting, council meeting packet. It meets all of the various zoning requirements. The only concern that was raised, potential concern, was for parking. Parking seems to be adequately addressed. There are 36 parking spaces, which would satisfy both of the uses that are at that location. And there were no other recommendations provided by council or by planning. So I don't know if council has any other questions of the applicant for this project.
Just one question, is the parking area, is that going to be paved?
Yeah, it already is actually
It is?
paved.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it needs repaved in the spring, but yeah, it is already paved.
Won't be gravel?
No.
This is the old Myers hardware for anyone
Yes.
didn't see that. Any other questions from council? Anyone have anything?
Did you happen to have a picture of how you were going to renovate the outside of the building or anything like that, just for us to see?
Well, we kind of already did the outside it's all stucco stone.
Is it already all done? Okay.
Yeah, it's stucco stone, no windows. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Okay.
And then you'll have some metal awnings on the front.
All right. I know you've done a lot in Murraysville to make things look nice. So thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah. So I don't think you don't have permits. Yeah, he's a survey. He has a survey and everything. If you need anything from him.
Yeah, I drove by it the other day. It looks really good. So
Thank you.
yeah.
The exterior renovations weren't, there was no approval required for that. So, and the only other item that they are working on now is signage, which has to go through the zoning officer, and that's in progress as we speak. So,
Okay, last thing, any questions from council? We'll open it up to the public for comment. Anyone from the public that would like to step forward and say anything in regards to just this public hearing for just this, we'll have another public comment, just our general public comment afterwards. So going once, going twice. All right. It closes the public hearing. All right, we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if we can do a roll call.
Mr. Olszewski,
Present.
Mr. Diakopoulos,
Here.
Mr. Dice, Mr. Lemak,
Here.
Mrs. Ling,
Present.
Mr.
Amendments. Move on to consent calendar items. Can I get a motion for the approval of the November 19th, 2024 minutes?
I move that we approve the
Matt? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Comments by the mayor?
Thanks, Mr. McKenna. The first up this Saturday, December 7th, is our Santa at Sardis. It's from 1 to 4 p.m. It's a great event. It may be a little cool from what I see in the weather, but it's always been, the kids really enjoy it. In addition, Saturday we have, I think it's our last glass pop-up collection event at the Veterans Field parking lot, 4200 Sardis Road here, just by the soccer field, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Residents are also encouraged to support the Loaves and Fishes Emergency Food Pantry by donating non-perishable food items. Food pantry volunteers will be at the pavilion accepting drive-through donations during the same hours. The sponsors of this are the municipality of Murraysville and Republic Services. Next is a trip coming up, Murraysville and Hempfield Parks and Recreation, a bus trip to People's Gas Holiday Market. It's Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. Stop 1 is at Hempfield Park at 10 a.m. Stop 2 is at Murray's View Shop, 10:30 a.m., which is 5030 William Penn Highway. Leave the leaf pickup is coming up again. It's on December 14th. Make sure you go online and fill out that curbside leaf collection program form, because if no one else on your street has done it, they will skip you if they don't know they have to use that street. And lastly, we have the Murraysville Recreation Hot Chocolate Hikes. It's going to be Saturday, December 14th. McGinnis Reserve parking is off Hunter Lane or Hunter Drive. Murraysville. Join the Recreation Department for some fun 2 to 3 mile hikes over the winter. These are wooded hikes with some slopes and may require stepping over fallen trees. Please dress for the weather and plan for the terrain. If you have any questions, call here at 327-2100, extension 131. Be careful out there, it's snowing, especially you people like my age. You don't have to go out and get the paper when the driveway's frozen. Just wait a little while, it'll stay there. And the mail also, if not Medic One, will be providing rides and therapy will follow. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Comments by the Chief Administrator. Mike?
Yes, just one update on the Old William Penn Bridge. As everybody knows, that bridge is reopened, which is a relief to the community. However, some of the paving leading up to the bridge is going to be redone. So the contractor will be out there doing some milling, depending upon the weather, but they won't be doing any of the repaving until in the spring. So you may see a little bit more work being done there, but no more closures. The bridge is opened and available to use. So that's all for this meeting.
The community's definitely happy about that. Thanks, Mike. All right, community input. Thank you. Do we have anyone on the sheet? No, I don't think so. Nobody. Just for the good of the order, anyone in the community would like to make any comment, public comment? You got 3 minutes. Welcome to do so. All right. We'll move on from there to liaison comments and committee reports. We'll start down with Eli. Anything going on? Matt?
Nothing on my end. Next meeting is the end of this month.
Next Planning Commission meeting is December 10th.
Parks and Recreation, the mayor hit on the couple events that we have coming up here over the next week and a half or two. And the next meeting will be next Tuesday. Carl?
Medic One met on November 21st. A couple things. There were 1,112 emergency calls, 46 non-emergency. The subscription rate is 27.5%. The Medic One is required, and they completed a vehicle safety audit done by a third party, and it was successful. All the vehicles are tested to make sure that they're safe. All vehicles will have carbon monoxide detectors, and these detectors are not for the vehicles, but wherever they go to, they have basically these detectors, so they could recognize carbon monoxide if it were there. The employee health insurance, you might find interesting. They're switching from UPMC to Highmark. UPMC was going to have a 47% increase. Highmark is going to have a 25% increase. Therefore, they're going with Highmark. And the final thing on that there will be a $50 gift card for all the employees of Medic One. There was a meeting of the Murraysville Parks and Recreation Foundation, and that was Monday of this week. There's the possibility of disc golf, and where that will be located is yet to be seen, but it sounds like a real nice project for the foundation. There's continuing discussion of the gifting policy. The natural playground is installed, or was installed by Public Works, and I haven't seen it yet. I mentioned to our Parks and, not our Parks and Recreation, but our Public Works director, but everybody seems to think it's really great. I'm looking forward to looking at it, seeing it. We have two prospective foundation members, Mike Marion and Colin Kernick. And also the final is that we'll be drafting some descriptions for internships at the foundation, and they would either be in high school or in the college ranks. And that's it.
All right. Thanks, Carl. Jason?
The library met last Thursday, and there's two main things. One is they're working through the 2025 budget, kind of working to balance that. And so that was a big part of the meeting. And also, they did a deep dive into the ARPA grant, which you probably read about in the paper and we've mentioned here. Very large grant was given to the library for improvements. So they're starting initial discussions on how to allocate that and spend that money. That's all.
Great, thank you, Jason. All right, that moves us on to workshop items. Nothing under administration, nothing under engineering, community development, public works. It moves us to 13 council action items. Under administration, we have the A is the approved ordinance of number 1094-24, the 2025 salary ordinance. Mike?
Yes, pretty straightforward item. This is the salary ordinance that is adopted annually. As we discussed at previous meetings, we did expand a few, or we're hoping to expand a few more positions here in the municipality, and that's incorporated into the salary ordinance. That would be for a public works truck driver, a police officer, the deputy director of planning, an engineering tech, and the maintenance position. Other than those 5 new or added positions, the rest of the salary ordinance is pretty straightforward. Police and public works employees are receiving raises pursuant to their contracts that are existent and in place, and all non-uniform or non-union employees are receiving a cost of living salary increase according to Social Security, and that's at 2.5%. In alignment with the Social Security cost of living adjustment. So that is the salary ordinance for 2025.
All right, great. Can I get a motion for the approval of A?
Motion to approve ordinance number 1094-24, the 2025 salary ordinance.
Second.
All right, thank you, Jamie and Eli.
That was Matt.
Oh, that was Matt. Thanks, Jamie and Matt. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Moves us to B, the approved ordinance of number 1095-24, the 2025 tax ordinance. Mike?
Yes, and I don't want to jump out of order. I don't know if council would like to make a motion before we have discussion, but certainly feel free to interrupt me or ask further questions. This item is for approval of this 2025 tax ordinance. The tax ordinance sets the same millage as it has been in previous years, 12.15 mils for property taxes. So this ordinance is the same as the most recent prior years for property taxes.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1095-24, the 2025 tax ordinance.
We'll open real quick questions from council before we do the
I think we make the motion and then we have the discussion and then we vote to
whoops.
approve.
Okay. All right.
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Jamie and Eli. Questions from council?
Now, I think JC went over this last time pretty thoroughly for us. Thank you for that.
Okay. Great. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion passes. Moves us to C, the approval of resolution number 793-24, the operating budget for the 2025 calendar year. Mike?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution number 793-24, the operating budget for the 2025 calendar year.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And we'll go Carl.
So this is the 2025 operating budget. JC is here, could certainly answer any questions that council may have. This year's budget, we held a public hearing on November 6th to discuss the budget. There were no revisions requested at that time. JC did present to council that there were some typographical errors and some adjustments that need to be made on the budget regarding the initial entries and budget amounts going into the 2025 budget. So she did make some of those adjustments. I can allow her to explain. But there haven't been any changes to this budget, nothing presented from council. So at this time, the item is available for consideration to approve. Should council have any questions or concerns that necessitate any budgetary changes, we can certainly come back at the second December meeting to approve, so it does not have to occur this evening. I will say that this budget is in line with prior year budgets, other than the different positions that I previously mentioned that we're looking to add to the municipal staff. There aren't really any major adjustments from this budget as compared to prior years. We're still continuing along with similar projects relative to the parks, paving, and things like that. So this budget is in line with prior year budgets, much in the same mold. So if there are any questions for JC, she can certainly assist in answering those as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. Any questions from council?
JC, do you remember, I'm racking my brain, I looked through the minutes, but it must have been 2 meetings ago, so I don't have those in front of me. I had brought up there was a trend in, yes, the hydrant tax. Is that in here? Because I didn't see it.
Yeah, the packet that
Is it in the packet in here? Okay.
It would be
Can you direct me to that?
5. So it is the third one in that packet.
Okay, thank you.
It would be page 45. So at the top, I readjusted that real estate millage assumption with an annual increase of 0.75%. and that kind of steadied it out. There was just a calculation missing, so it didn't pull over correctly. So thank you for noticing that.
Sure. Thank you for updating it.
You're welcome.
All right, great. Thank you, JC. Any other questions from council? All right. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Moves us to 13D. Can I get a motion?
Motion to advertise ordinance number 1096-24, the fee ordinance.
We'll go Jamie and Eli. Mike?
Yes, sorry, I apologize. I was
There you go.
sidebar over here. So this item, I'll ask council for a little bit of feedback. This is the fee ordinance that we adopt annually, but also modify from time to time throughout the year whenever we adjust municipal fees. There is one fee in the ordinance, or one set of fees in the ordinance that do need to be adjusted that we are aware of, and those are fees for the zoning hearing board. Anytime we conduct a zoning hearing for a variance or some other type of zoning matter, there are costs to the municipality for having a court reporter, the solicitor, and some other fees that are associated with conducting those hearings. Those fees have gone up in recent years, but our fee schedule has not. So I would propose to council to increase some of those fees. I can pull out of the support documents what that increase would be. So bear with me just one moment. But the fees for a zoning hearing, I believe, were in the range of around $750 per hearing. The applicant pays that fee. The proposal is to increase that fee to $1,000 per hearing. That would now allow us to cover all those various costs for a zoning hearing. So those are for changes in non-conforming use, adding additions to existing residential units, residential variances, home occupations, use variances, things like that. So the fees would increase essentially $250 per item, and then a continuation request is currently $150. That would go up to $300. So that is the one item that we've identified over the last couple years and just simply haven't modified. So I would ask council to consider adjusting that. Also, in that same ordinance, we found a typo under the escrow fees and some of the statutory language that's listed there. So we just want to correct those typos. We certainly wouldn't need to re-adopt the ordinance just to do that, but I only make mention in case you see the highlighting in there in those sections. So those are the items that are that staff has identified as maybe necessitated. However, as you would see in your briefing, and then also in the draft version of this document, there's also the potential to increase fees for rental costs in the municipality when folks are renting out the pavilion or gazebo areas or the clubhouse or community center. And the reason that staff has asked council to consider increasing those fees is because we are doing quite a few more rentals now than we have previously. The clubhouse is one big, one facility that we are renting out much more often than we anticipated. It's a newer facility, as everybody is aware. And a lot of the municipalities is absorbing a lot of the costs to conduct these rentals. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into these properties. There's a lot of cleanup and other items associated. So in the draft version, you would see that the costs essentially for residents would be going up for most of the rentals from $50 to $75 per rental. For non-residents, that fee would go from $100 to $150. And again, those are for the park rentals, the gazebos or the pavilions, things like that. There were some other increases on the hourly rate for the clubhouse at MCP. And again, these are items that council does not have to consider increasing, but it would be probably recommended by staff at this point. So I certainly would open it up to discussion for that. The other item that would probably be a little bit more controversial, we'll say, would be the field fee costs for the local sports organizations. Those fees have not changed in roughly 15 years. Certainly our costs have gone up to maintain the field fees, or to maintain the fields and the facilities. Again, I would imagine that the youth sports organizations certainly wouldn't want to see those fees go up. We were looking at what would essentially be a 20% increase. Now that means essentially from a $50, well, the fees vary, but anywhere from $50 to $100 per field, per time slot would go up to either $60, or for the 100 costs, it would go up to $120. Essentially, it's a 20% increase. Now, what that means is one of our biggest users, FRAA, pays roughly $10,000 to $12,000 a year in field fees. So that number would go up to, from 10, it would go up to around 12,000. If it's at 12, it would go up to around 14.5. It's certainly a cost to those organizations. But the one thing that we've noticed, the one thing that has been made clear to me in the short time I've been here is that the cost to maintain our fields has continued to go up over the last 15 years, but we have not addressed the fee structure. So I know that that's an item that may get some pushback from the local sports leagues. We recognize that. Unfortunately, it's one of those situations where we may have to peel off the Band-Aid. However, it does not have to be done at this time. It's something that we could give further thought to down the road. I just don't want to keep kicking the can too far down the road. So as I present the fee ordinance to you tonight for advertisement, first, this is only advertisement, so it's something that can be brought back up and discussed at the next meeting. I don't want council to feel as if they're kind of being forced into making this decision. If it's something that you only want to do the zoning fees, we can simply do that, and we can come back at a later time, sometime throughout next year, and reconsider field fees, reconsider the rental fees. So it doesn't have to be done at this time, but it is something that probably should be done and is warranted. But I understand that with short notice, this being first presented to the council right now, there may not be an appetite to do that. So I kind of present that to you. I'm open to questions and providing any further discussion. This is for an advertisement, so there is opportunity now and over the next couple weeks to have additional discussion before you would come back for a vote to approve an ordinance.
Yeah, one question, Michael. How many zoning appeals are there in a year?
Not very many. Recently, in recent years, we might have 3 or 4 maximum in a year. There aren't too many, so that's why it hasn't been too problematic. There hasn't been a major need to increase the fee, but again, it's one of those things that has been noted and we believe is warranted. We don't want to get too far behind on that fee structure where we are subsidizing zoning appeals on behalf of the various applicants. So we don't have too many of them. It's not too problematic, but it is something where we are behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I can say, I know I did one personally in 2013 and I paid $750, so that was 12 years ago.
That's right.
So that hasn't changed in a while, so.
Yeah, and you mentioned 15 years for the field fees, but is that the same with the zoning fees? Has it been that long?
I'd say it's been at least.
Yes, it's been, I would say at least that. And I didn't look back to the history of the zoning fees. I know they've been in place for at least that long. With the field fees, the last time that they were addressed, I know that was 15 years ago, and I specifically looked into that because I know that's a little bit more of a difficult pill to swallow when you talk about the local sports organizations and having to pay those fees.
Mike, is there a difference in like if it was a percentage on the sports fees? I know this is a topic that's come up at Parks and Recreation. We've talked about in the past too, just the usage of the fields and maintenance of the fields and whatnot. But like are certain fields higher maintenance, whether it's baseball because you have to, rake all the dirt and do everything, or soccer, like if they go up by a percentage rather than, an amount, is that how we would do that across the board? Or?
Well, what we looked at...
do you have soccer, football, baseball, lacrosse? I don't know if there's more.
I would say, to answer that, I think that's maybe a 2-part question. Whether one field gets more attention or has a higher cost than others, that probably could be true. but we haven't broken it down to that extent.
Right.
I think that would be, really kind of a fine-tooth comb approach. The way we looked at it, what seemed to be the most simplified version and seemed to make the most sense was a flat increase, and not a flat dollar amount, but rather a percentage-based increase. We came up with 20%, which again sounds like a lot. That's a big leap, 20%. But when you talk about the actual costs, like I said, the highest paying organization, I think last year paid just over $10,000. That would go up to $12,000 for that particular organization. But what it does is it keeps the numbers pretty even across the board. The $50 goes up to $60, $75 slot goes to $90.
Yeah.
So instead of doing a whole dollar amount where these numbers could really get skewed, we found that the 20% figure was enough of a justification to make the increase, but it wasn't too substantial where it's going to put an organization out. If we would do less than that, it would probably throw off those whole numbers, and we'd be looking at decimal points and other things. So that's kind of, again, part of the mindset, the thought process that went into the increase. But going back to your original question, we did not break it down by
It makes more sense.
particular
to do it like
sport.
that. Yeah.
As you know, the Public Works Department is who maintains the fields in our community. They put quite a bit of time into the various fields, and they address the ones that have the most need, all the way down to the ones that are pretty well maintained. So I'm sure we could break down those costs, but I think it probably evens out over time. There's quite a bit of money that we put into our fields that we certainly don't recoup. I mean, you take, like I said, the biggest user of our baseball fields, the local baseball group. $10,000 is. We certainly put more than $10,000 into our fields annually. In fact, that's probably just the amount that gets things started on just a few fields each year. So we absorb a lot of that cost, and the idea with the increase is to try to maybe push a little bit of that back to those youth organizations, just because they do have high enrollment. They are the ones using the fields. We don't have the general public really using these fields, especially the baseball fields. They are pretty much designed for youth sports, so we maintain the fields almost specifically for them. It's very rarely do we have the general public using the baseball fields for anything, and even the soccer fields, the lacrosse field, et cetera. So they really are being maintained just for those groups.
Mike, how far in advance are fields reserved? They do it every year or every 6 months? Or?
Yes, at the beginning of the spring, they will have a fields meeting here in the building. All of the local sports organizations in the community, even outside of the community, are invited. And then there's an ordinance in place as far as how the reservation process works, and the local youth sports teams get first priority. And so the primary groups that we're familiar with in our community do get kind of the first bite at the apple as far as reserving fields. And then after that, anything that's remaining, then the other groups can use the smaller organizations or maybe the private sports teams, if you will. But there is a whole process. It kind of kicks off in the spring, which is why, again, because we're considering the fee ordinance now, and we want to be able to have something definitive going into the spring to be able to notify the sports groups. This is why we wanted to maybe get a little bit ahead of it now, if there is a desire to do that.
I'm fine with advertising the ordinance, but I do feel that there needs to be a little bit more discussion that occurs, especially on the community center and the club rentals. Because I know that the club rental was a relatively new fee that was set. I don't, especially with the alcohol fee that's in conjunction with the actual rental, and I think probably a lot of people that rent the clubhouse actually do use the liquor. You could tell me more than that. I'm just assuming because it's private, it probably would be more likely to do that. I don't know that I am comfortable raising the fee on those two items. The community center is rented out by a lot of local groups who basically set up chairs. They don't really dirty it. They're not bringing in food. I just think we need to have a little bit more discussion on that.
Sure. JC, did you have something you want to? Sure. You come up here.
Just to kind of add on to that thought, if we do bring a maintenance person in, so right now on a month-to-month, it is running on the negative. So the cost to maintain the property, the cleaning, all of the things involved, utilities, it is slightly running in the red right now. So we aren't breaking even. So that might have been what prompted something like this to increase it. However, if we do bring an in-house maintenance person on, that could significantly reduce the cost for those cleaning fees at both of those properties. So if that's something that might not be entertained this way around, we can always take a look at that in the future and see how, bringing a maintenance personnel can come in would change those figures. So just
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And I will say, in the draft version, just now that I had kind of a second to calibrate, in the draft version of the resolution or the ordinance, the fees, it was not proposed to increase the fees for the community center.
Oh, I thought you said that.
So it would only be for the alcohol permit, only that part of it. Now, the fees at the clubhouse are proposed to increase, and the reason for that is because we're recognizing that while it's a newer facility, we've gotten enough of a handle on it. It's very taxing on our staff and our public works department. There are a lot of people that do want to use that facility. They are renting it out. It comes with a lot of additional maintenance. We have quite a few issues that are occurring in that location. And again, as you can imagine, the municipality kind of being in the venue rental business isn't really our forte. And so it is a little bit taxing on our staff to have to go over. We have a lot of different folks that aren't cleaning up after they're done. We've had to refund quite a few rentals because the facility, we can't get it turned over quick enough on a weekend because, again, we don't have staff here. So we're running to a lot of different issues that are causing us difficulties. We've had issues with folks not, again, the way that they're using the facility. We're having issues with some of the alcohol consumption there and what that may lead to. So without getting into all the details of the different types of issues we're encountering, that is one facility where we're recognizing it's costing us a little bit more to have that facility and use it as a rental space than we were initially expecting. And to kind of put that in perspective, the resident rate is $25 an hour, so somebody can have a 4-hour event there, and they're paying $100, which is certainly not a lot. And all it takes is one small issue for us to have, and that puts us right in the red, what JC was mentioning. So again, I think I would say that your suggestion about advertising it and then maybe having this further discussion, I can come back next meeting with a little bit more information if you'd like. And again, this is something I don't want to try to force upon us. We've had quite a bit of discussion already. If this is something where we want to have a little bit more time to digest, we certainly don't have to force this one into place. I just wanted to, because the ordinance is on the agenda this evening, I wanted to kind of present that to council.
Yeah, I think it would, I agree that there needs to be discussion on that. I think too, we definitely want to do something, especially on the field fees prior to, say, February, because then those organizations are setting their fees, which I'd venture to guess those fees will have gone up 20% or more for those organizations. I know I pay for my kids, and I know it went up. So those, and material has to have gone up significantly more than 20%. So, I think that's a good gauge, but I think having further discussion on it would be great. So I agree that we advertise and have a little further discussion, sooner than later, so that we can make a decision at the beginning of next year sometime, I would say.
Okay, we can do that.
All right. Any other questions from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes to advertise for the fee. Can I get a motion for 13E? All right, thank you, Jamie and Carl. Mike?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. This is an item we do each year. There are a number of boards and commissions that have terms expiring, and so we want to get that advertisement out there so that we can make appointments leading into January of next year.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions? All in favor?
I have
Oh, you have a question?
I have a question.
All right.
Are any of the terms that are expiring, are they renewable? Will some of these people be coming back, or are we expecting to fill all of these positions?
There are is we would advertise the various openings. We would notify the different individuals who have terms expiring that their term is up and ask them if they would like to be reappointed. And then that's something that obviously council can weigh in on and whether they want to make a reappointment. In past years, typically council will reappoint those folks that want to remain involved. They have an understanding of the various board or commission that they may be on. And so that is a value to the community to have those folks remain in their position if they wish. So that's how the process would work. We would advertise it. We would notify people that their term is expiring. And then we do have some boards. The zoning board is the first one that comes to mind, where we do have a vacancy there that we've been trying to fill. So there are some that we are looking for candidates to fill that there aren't renewed terms. We just need to fill those spots. I do think that as we begin the next year, there's also going to be a vacancy to fill on the library board as well. And so there are some boards where we don't have reappointments, but we would certainly ask those folks if
To the Parks and Recreation Commission to fill the remainder of the unexpired term ending December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Thank you, Jason and Jamie.
yes, there's a vacancy. Board has been having trouble having a quorum and getting folks to their meetings. So even though it does expire at the end of the year, that's one of those examples where I would expect the council may consider reappointing that person moving forward in future years. But the term would end, and this person would be, if approved, they would be notified that the term ends and that they could seek reappointment. That's a decision for council to make then again in January.
All right. Any questions from council? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. 13G.
Motion to adopt resolution number 796-24, a resolution to dispose of certain municipal records in accordance with the state records retention policy.
Second.
All right, Eli and Jamie.
This item's pretty straightforward. In your briefing, you'll see there are a variety of records, everything from finance and legal records all the way down to engineering and planning records that have been scanned in and preserved digitally. And so the process is that the municipality is required to approve a resolution to dispose of those records, and that's what this item is for.
Are these just paper, or are they electronic too?
These are paper records. So the paper records have been scanned in, and we've preserved them digitally.
Okay.
This is to destroy the paper records.
Any questions from anyone on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to community development. Can I get a motion for 14A?
Motion to approve CU-4-24, a conditional use application for a change in the use from a hardware store to karate studio, 5270 Old William Penn Highway, tax parcel 4915100004, mixed use zoning.
Second. All right. Was that Matt? Yeah. Jamie and Matt, thank you. Mike?
I would add for council that if you do wish to approve this item, that you also add in a waiver for the landscaping, side yard landscaping requirements, as it doesn't seem feasible for the developer to be able to do those based on the layout of the property.
I'll append my motion to include the landscaping waiver.
Second.
And Matt continues the second. Questions from council? No questions?
When will it be open? January.
All right. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. That moves us on, nothing under engineering. We have 16, Public Works and Parks. Can I get a motion for 16A?
Motion to consider approval of the contract for portable restroom rental fees for the parks.
Second.
Is there a number on it? It's Award 17, portable restroom units for Marysville Park.
Okay.
Carl, will you read that?
Award a one-year contract for rental of 17 portable restroom units for the Murraysville Parks to Mr. John of Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Second.
All right, thank you, Carl and Matt. Well, Mike, but we'll go to Bill.
Good evening, Council. Actually, that is a one-year contract with a 3-year renewal,
Okay.
is how that's normally written through, since that I know of, anyway.
Okay.
So I'm asking council for that to be possible. Mr. John has submitted the lowest bids for this contract. They're $110 for the standard units and $140 for the handicap units. That's across the boards for the 3 years that they have bid. So that's,
Are they our current provider?
they are not our current provider.
Okay.
And I was trying to look back through, it's been at least 10 years since we have had Mr. John for our contractor.
Michael, do we need to amend the motion?
Yeah, we will before we vote.
Yeah, you could do that. And just to address Bill's mention there, the existing company, we have had some difficulties with them with the service they're providing. So we think that this is a welcome change to see if Mr. John can kind of improve upon some of the service that we've been getting. The budget amount is set at not to exceed $21,500 for Porta Johns for the year.
It's got to be a year.
All right. Any questions from council? And Carl, can you amend yours to add the 3-year renewal?
Amend the award to have this the 1 year and also the ability to extend it to a 3-year at the current 1-year rate.
Okay.
Still second.
And
That's
Matt
renewed.
still second, so
That's
it's-
renewed annually.
Carl and Matt.
Does the rate remain the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I do have one question, Bill. How often do they service these?
They're to be serviced once a week,
Okay.
and that's
So
where
there's an actual record in the, yep.
there's to be a record. You know, with everybody having phones and cameras now,
Who wants to take a
sometimes the
picture of
truck
that?
pulls in and he's being GPSed from his
Gotcha.
company and kind of doesn't get out of the truck every once in a while, runs in and makes the mark and
All right.
leaves. So a few of the local residents that'll live along the parks have submitted that information to us.
Okay.
So hopefully we get a fresh start. I know it's a bad job, but
Yeah.
paying somebody to do it, so.
Portable restroom watchdogs.
Crappy job. All right, so that motion has been amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. That moves us to 16B. Can I get a motion?
Motion, go ahead.
A motion to approve an award of a 3-year contract for deer carcass removal on municipal roads to Steve Bozier.
Second.
Thank you, Matt and Jamie. Mike?
Yeah, so I could probably turn it over to Bill. He could explain more succinctly, but this is,
Sir. Steve has done our work for ages. I don't know of anybody else that has done this besides the Game Commission. His price had only come up $5 across the board for the next 3 years. His work stands for itself. I mean, that's another job that I really don't want to do either, you know, once I get over. So I'm asking for council to award that contract as well.
How many removals do we get a year, roughly?
We're up around 200.
Wow.
Just
If somebody
out of
sees something on the road,
curiosity,
who do they
what-
call?
They call the police at this stage of the game. We would have them call the police station. Now, the police have to make a determination whether it's a state road or a municipal road. If it's a state road, then of course they call a state contractor who comes, I don't know where he comes out of, but within time, they seem to be removed. Steve's within 48 hours. He tends to have them cleaned up and town looking nice.
And it's just deer, it's not smaller animals by any.
Correct, it's just deer.
And he takes those off-site.
They actually go to the landfill, which we pay the tipping fee for the landfill.
All right. Any
That's
questions from council for Bill?
Excuse me.
No?
No. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes for deer carcass removal. Nothing under old business, nothing under new business. We do have an executive session for a legal matter. There won't be any action coming out of that.
Yes, sir.
So, nothing under action items, and one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
Go Carl and Jamie.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that closes the meeting.